Before I start, don't start timing yet. But just so you know, basically what I did this speech and then got some feedback from the judges and Tom and people like that. So I've made some tweaks and changes to it. It should time out about 6.5 minutes or so. I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but we'll see what happens with it. But
yeah, definitely.
Kind of what I'm looking for is there were some references that I made in there that some of the people didn't understand what I was saying, and I want to make sure that that's all understood. So at the end, help me out with this, okay?
Okay.
So
What did you want us to do for?
I think I've never done this before, so I think at the end I just want to know, you know, were there parts of it that maybe you didn't understand? Because I'm going to make some references to some people and things like that, and that was one of the things. I made reference to somebody, and then people didn't know who that was, and that kind of thing. So kind of any little things that you can think of that might help me with this thing.
Okay.
Please help me out. Okay? So I guess I'm ready to start. Yes, it's Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel with his bare hands. And who? Disguised as Clark Kent. Fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. I loved Superman. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests. I'm like you. When I was a little kid, I had heroes. And as I grew older and my taste changed, the heroes changed with it. When I was 5 years old, my hero was Superman, the Man of Steel. I loved the way that Clark Kent could run down an alley, look around, make sure nobody's looking, whip off his glasses. Next thing you know, he emerges as Superman. Then a couple minutes later, he's crashing through a building, and there's a couple bad guys on the other side of the wall, and they're shooting bullets at him, and he just stands there with a smirk on his face, letting the bullets bounce off of his chest. And then in desperation, when they run out of bullets, they throw the guns at him, and he ducks just in the nick of time so he doesn't... Wait a minute. That never made sense to me. Why did he duck? Like, the bullet is bouncing off his chest, but the gun's going to hit him. He's going, ow, geez, come on, stop that. Either way, I loved Superman. When I was a kid, about 5 years old, my dad came home one day with a Superman costume for me. Well, actually, it was Superman pajamas with a detachable red cape. But every Saturday night, I'd go to bed with those pajamas on, because when I woke up Sunday morning, I was going to watch Superman. As I got older, my heroes changed. When I was about 9 years old, I got into music. Wanted to play the drums. Ringo Starr was my hero. I had everything that I needed to be a rock drummer, except one thing. I didn't have any drums. But then one Christmas, we came home from Christmas Eve at my aunt and uncle's house and went to midnight mass. Got home 2 o'clock in the morning. I remember going past the Christmas tree. Nothing underneath it. Santa Claus hadn't been there yet. Mom and Dad said, make sure you guys get up to bed. You got to get a good night's sleep. Santa Claus doesn't come till you're asleep. So up we go, and we tried to fall asleep as fast as we could. Next morning when I woke up, I snuck down, and I saw the beautiful Christmas tree sitting there with all the presents underneath them. Next to the Christmas tree, a blue sparkle drum set. Wow. Turns out, after we got home, 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning, my dad had to go to my grandparents' house where they had stashed this thing. Drives in the middle of the night, picks up this drum set, puts it in his car, brings it home, sets it all up, without making any noise. And then we're all up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't understand why Mom and Dad were so tired that day. I still have it. It was the best Christmas of my life. When I got a little bit older, I was 11 years old, I got into sports, and particularly hockey. I loved hockey. Every day after school during the winter, I'd go to the local ice rink. I'd play hockey. My favorite player was Pitt Martin, number 7 from the Chicago Blackhawks. It's kind of a no-name. A lot of people don't know who he is. He got kind of overshadowed by some of the more famous players. He's the kind of player that I think more kids put his bubblegum card in the spokes of their tires than actually saved it. But he was my favorite. I loved Pitt Martin. One day, my dad and I were listening to one of the Blackhawks games. It was a home game, because the home games weren't televised. So we listened to the game on the radio. When the game was over, my dad says, "Hey, come on, get your coat. I'm going to take you someplace." So he takes me to a tavern. I'm an 11-year-old kid. Takes me to the tavern, but we walk in, all around the walls are caricature pictures of all the Chicago Blackhawks. They're all autographed. It was like a cathedral to the Chicago Blackhawks. I was in heaven looking at all these pictures. I thought I was great. 45 minutes later, a bunch of men come walking in. They're all laughing and talking and everything like this. And I noticed one of them is Stan McKee, the captain of the Blackhawks at that time. And then I noticed another one, Bobby Hull, the star for the Blackhawks. I said to my dad, "This is the Chicago Blackhawks coming in." And my dad said, as my dad used to say, "You betcha. This is where they come after the games. See the guy at the end of the bar? That's Pitt Martin. Why don't you go say hello?" So I walked up to him. And I stand there and I said, "Excuse me, are you Pitt Martin?" And he looks at me and he says, "Why, yes, son. Yes, I am." And I remember what I said. "Okay." And I walked back to the table. 5 minutes later, I'm having a root beer with my absolute best hero ever. We talked about the Blackhawk game that night. He asked me about school. He asked me about my friends. And he cared about everything that I said. My absolute best hero wasn't the hockey player. It was the man that drove me to that tavern that night because he knew what that would mean to me. It's the same man that drove out in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve to pick up a drum set to give me the most memorable Christmas of my life. Now, I wondered why Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen didn't know who Superman was when they lived right with him. Here I was living with Superman my whole life. He took me fishing. He taught me to ride a bike. He let me stay up late on school nights to tell me combat stories about World War II. You see, a hero doesn't have to be somebody with a red cape on. A hero is that person who can make you feel that you can do anything you want to do as long as you work hard enough at it. A hero is that person who just makes you feel invincible. We all have a hero in our lives now. It's that special person that would probably love to hear from you, for you to tell them how much they mean to you and how much they've done for you. Mr. Toastmaster?